Good morning, everyone.
I guess I could talk too.
It's fine. You don't have to. We're going to wait just a few seconds for some more folks to join us today, but we've got, I've been calling it the most epic show and tell known to man, but we've got a full, 2 tables full of amphibians to show you guys today. And Jake, do you want to fill everybody in?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us for Take a Break with Jake. My name is Jake. And today we're going to be meeting some of our amazing herpetology keepers. They care for reptiles and amphibians, so turtles, snakes, lizards, salamanders, frogs, and some other things. And celebrating kind of all the differences with that family of animals. And we'll be telling you all about those in just a little bit. We did want to mention that we have reopening information up on the NashvilleZoo.org website. So if you go to NashvilleZoo.org/reopen, right?
Yep, you nailed it.
That is where you can find all of the information that you'll need to know about what's going on, what policy changes there are. Members can come back June 15th. And the general public can come back June 18th.
Yep.
So check out that link to get all the information about reopening and what's new and what's happening. And then you can also go to shop.nashvillezoo.org to get a cute hoodie just like this one. This actually has the year that the zoo opened in Grassmere, which is pretty cool. But we have to get to the animals.
We do.
So today we have Holly with us, as well as Sherry, who was with us for Hellbenders last week. And these are 2 of our incredible herpetologists here at the zoo. And they're going to tell us, starting with salamanders, is that what we're doing today? Okay, who do we have, Holly? What's going on here?
Hi, so today I'm going to talk about salamanders. So Earth is home to 700 plus salamander species, where the Appalachia region is actually home to a lot of our salamanders. And so we have a few here today that we do have native and some that are not native. So our first one is this Axolotl. They are native to Mexico City in Lake Xochimilco, and then used to be Lake Chalco. But it was unfortunately drained for flood control measures. So right now they just exist in the little canals of Lake Xochimilco, but they actually exist primarily in captivity through laboratories. They're actually studied for their ability to regenerate their limbs. So if something were to happen and this little guy misses his foot, he can regrow it, which is actually really cool.
That's crazy.
It is. And so these guys typically, they'll live for 12 to 15 years. It's a pretty long time. They can get up to 8 ounces, and they eat primarily worms, fish, anything that they can get their tiny little vacuum mouths to eat.
Are they all this color, Holly?
No, this one is actually albino, and then we do have axolotls that are a normal coloration. It's like a brownish gray coloration. So this is our only one. You can see him on exhibit.
Oh, cute.
Yes, so he's super cool.
Holly, Sherry mentioned that people have axolotls as pets, and
Yes.
I actually know a couple people who have them as pets. But for someone who is that is a really cute amphibian, I want to have that in my home, what do they need to know about caring for one of these creatures in their home?
Well, primarily these guys are cold water amphibians, and so they live in water anywhere from 61 to 64 degrees, capped 68 degrees, and so you can't get them warmer than that, or they get stressed out and can eventually die from that. So that's a big thing. Water quality is a definitely big thing with amphibians, especially since he lives in the water. That's a big deal. So primarily water temperature, feeding him the right things, like worms and little fish.
What are these red bits
Oh,
around
those are
his head?
gills.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how he breathes. And so fish, you'll typically see they're covered with the gill cover, the operculum. What? Yeah. So these guys actually have external gills, and so you'll see this in not only the juveniles but the adults as well. They look the same as a juvenile and an adult. This is an adult, but their gills are on the outside.
Cool.
No frill. So yeah, these guys are super cool. They look the same all the way from the point that they hatch from their eggs until the day that they die. They look like this. It's very rare for them to metamorphose onto land. They typically stay in their aquatic state.
Very cool.
Yeah, they're really neat little dudes.
So what makes a salamander different from another amphibian species or, fish, I guess?
So these guys, amphibians, do bridge the gap between water life and land life. And so these guys, although they do rely on water, they also get to enjoy their life on land. And so, yeah, they don't hop like frogs do. They do a lot of walking, a lot of digging. This guy does a lot of swimming. So
Awesome.
cool. So this is our next species. This is our tiger salamander species. Don't tell the other salamanders, but this one's my favorite. Her name is Pierre.
Pierre.
She's gonna be stop. She's super cute. She'll be 12 next month, and she's super cute.
Oh my
I mean, look at
gosh.
that face.
Wow, Pierre.
They always look so happy. That's why they're my
Permanent
favorite.
smile.
Yes, covered in smiles and leaves. So they're super cool. They are native here to the United States and Tennessee as well.
Okay.
So their habitat ranges from southern Canada all through the continental United States, all the way down into eastern Mexico. So they're pretty tough little guys. They endure a lot. They are actually one of the only salamander species that can survive in the arid conditions of the interior of the United States. So you think deserts, they don't get a lot of rain, but surprisingly, you can find these guys. So they're pretty tough little dudes. On average, they live anywhere between 12 and 16 years, and so she's 12, she's doing a good job. They like to eat bugs. They really like to eat worms. Earthworms, night crawlers, same thing.
Is that lifespan similar for all salamanders?
It depends on the species, but it seems like a lot of them do live around that long, like the axolotl, 12 to 15. These guys 10 to 16. So hellbenders live a long time.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so these guys are actually North America's largest terrestrial salamander.
Okay.
It's actually the world's largest terrestrial
And
salamander.
terrestrial means that they
They
live on land all the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, they start off in the water. These guys do metamorphose. They actually look like little tiny axolotls when they hatch from their eggs, but then they metamorphose into their land version. They can stay aquatic, but it's way more likely that you'll see them in the terrestrial stage.
cool.
Yes.
One question though from one of our viewers: why do they have that pattern?
Oh, it actually helps them hide.
Cool.
Yes, it's a way for them to camouflage, and so not only will the predators have a hard time seeing them, but also their prey will have a hard time seeing them. And so that's actually how they got their name, is those cool stripes that they have. They look like a tiger. So
That's really neat.
yeah, they get anywhere between, I think, 7 and 14 inches long, but on average it's like 6 to 8 inches. So
Cool.
yeah, and so a couple of other species that we do have here at the National Zoo. We have the hellbender, which Sherry was able to talk about last week, so you guys should check out that video because I thought it was really cool. Just a quick little snippet. We have some hellbenders that are very old. We have one that's close to 30 now.
Yeah.
He's pretty old.
Yep.
Yep. No, his name's Grandpa.
Yeah, he's very cute. You can see a couple of them on exhibit in our Unseen New World. Those were actually the first two salamanders that we had that were hatched from cryopreserved sperm, which is
No.
it's
Just captive produced.
just captive produced.
The cryopreservative is back.
Never mind. Those guys are just captive produced, which is really cool. They're about 7 now, which is really cool. So we get to see those guys grow up and be cute little salamanders. Yeah. And then-
So Reggie, the donation that you're seeing on your screen, that's just to help the zoo while we're closed. We are reopening in a few weeks, but it
June 15th.
costs quite a bit to keep the zoo running while we're closed and to keep everybody fed. So we are just raising money for that today. Awesome.
Yeah.
So thanks, Holly, for sharing about these guys. What do we have next?
All right, we're gonna talk about some frogs. So frogs is another family of amphibians. So you can see we've got some aquatic frogs. These are African clawed frogs. They're from Africa.
They're fully aquatic. They live in the water. So you see we have an albino color morph, and we also have just a regular color morph. So these guys are kind of like the axolotls. They come in a variety of different morphs, but they're also very popular in labs. People, they like to study these, but they also, back in the early days, they would use them for pregnancy tests. If you injected a woman's urine in the frog, if the frog ovulated, that meant the lady was pregnant. So these guys have been around. People have used amphibians for a lot of
Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, a lot of things people don't know about.
But pregnancy tests these days are sufficient.
They're
Right? Like
they're
no
a little
need,
bit different.
We don't-
Yeah, you can just do it at home in your bathroom without amphibians.
no frogs needed.
No frogs needed.
Frogs needed.
Good
Good
to
to
know.
know.
Yep. So next we have some terrestrial frogs. So these are just our dart frogs that we have. These are all different species.
Scientists, we usually talk about species. We use their genus and scientific name to describe them because a lot of animals have a lot of different common names. So this could be a green and black dart frog or a El Cope dart frog. So we try and talk about them with scientific names so that way we know we're talking about the same animals. So yeah, we have a few different species here. These are all full grown, so you can kind of see their different body shapes, their different sizes. They all have different calls, but these are native to Central and South America. Yeah.
So cool.
I love how brightly colored these guys
Yes.
are.
So this is an example of aposematic coloration. They're brightly colored like this as a warning to predators that they have poisons in them. And so they all have different types of poison, and dart frogs, they will actually get their poison from their diet. So ants, termites, mites, other things that they're eating. So in captivity, they don't have that specific type of diet, so these are actually not poisonous. So that makes our job a little bit easier. But they're still brightly colored like this because they think they're still poisonous.
Yeah.
There are some species, though, that aren't poisonous, but they mimic bright colors like this to fool predators into thinking they're poisonous when they're not.
Smart.
Yes.
This guy just blew a bubble and I got really distracted, so I thought I'd come back over.
Hi.
And then so we have aquatic, we have terrestrial, and now we have some arboreal, and this is a super gorgeous frog. These are called splendid leaf frogs. They're native to South America. These guys are nocturnal, so they do sleep on leaves during the day, but they come out at night to hunt and eat bugs. So yeah, like,
Oh my
have you
gosh.
seen anything prettier?
Stunning.
Yep, so this is a female. Most female frogs are larger because the way frogs reproduce is the female will have eggs, obviously, and then the male will climb on her back, and it's called amplexus, and so it's kind of like a piggyback, and he'll carry them around until she's ready to deposit her eggs. And then the female will lay the eggs and the males will fertilize them. So the females have to be larger so that they can like carry around the males.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Good going, gal.
Yeah.
She is stunning.
Yeah, stunning.
I wish I feel like her colors aren't showing up as well on camera, but wow.
Yeah.
So, Sherry, I had a question earlier about the dart frogs,
Okay.
but this can be about frogs in general.
Okay.
What are their predators and like what do they prey on? So where are they in that like?
Well, they're in the middle.
Okay.
So they eat a lot of, here at the zoo, they get crickets, bean beetles, fruit flies, sometimes termites. In the wild, they'll just eat any little bugs that they can find. So a lot of termites, some little beetles, some ants. So the dart frogs don't have as many predators because of the poisons. However, there are at least one snake species that has adapted to that poison and can actually eat them.
Wow.
So the tree frogs, most frogs have a little bit of poison in them, but it varies from species to species. But birds, snakes, other things will eat other types of amphibians. Like the fish will eat the clawed frogs. Obviously, things in the trees will eat the tree frogs. So, I mean, it's the life cycle. They're eating bugs. Some frogs will eat other frogs.
Wow.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The wildlife is rough.
I saw a question about are these guys sticky? Do they stick to things?
A little bit, yes. That helps them climb. But you can also see, whenever you're handling amphibians, you always want to have damp hands because amphibians can dry out very easily. They have very delicate skin.
Mm-hmm.
My arm does not bend this way. But you can see she's got really big, almost like webbed feet.
Yeah.
Those toes are kind of sticky, and that helps them to like hold on to leaves and even the glass of their tanks. A lot of tree frogs really like to hang on the glass and get their skin all over it so it's dirty.
Big old mess.
Yeah. I mean, we just look at her all day. She's just
We could.
she's
I'm just mesmerized.
gorgeous.
So, what would I think you mentioned this, but can you go back? One of our kid viewers, Claire, wants to know what this species eats.
This species, well, here at the zoo we give her crickets and superworms. In the wild, they would eat butterflies, moths, ants, anything they can find. Honestly, that will fit in their mouths. They'll
chomp down on it.
Yep.
That's a good rule, I guess.
Do frogs generally have like gigantically long tongues like a chameleon, or is it kind of shorter, or somewhere in
It's
the
kind of
middle?
shorter. Sometimes when you're watching the dart frogs eat, you can actually see it come out a little bit.
Cute.
So yeah, they do have
protruding tongues, but they don't really go that far. But they are sticky like that to help bring in the bugs back into their mouths.
That's smart.
And then when they swallow, they'll actually like use their whole head, and their eyes get like tucked in, and they push
Like
it
to
down their
force
throat.
everything
Yep.
out. Interesting.
Yep.
It is kind of wild to see them do their thing. Oh,
Mhm.
look. One's climbing. We've got a climber.
Yep.
How cool.
And that's why, yep, frogs, they need good lids because they will try and climb out.
Right. I should mention, I guess, too, if it's not abundantly clear at this point, like all of these are just transport containers
Oh,
so
yes,
that we
good.
could bring these frogs up to everybody and like see them, or frogs and salamanders up in an easier way than like going from exhibit to exhibit downstairs
Yeah.
in Unseen New World.
Yeah.
So we're up here in the safari room, which is one of our classroom areas in the Croft Center, and our awesome herpetologists have like brought all these creatures from their homes into these little transport tanks for a bit. So this is not where they live.
Yeah, they live in much bigger, better, beautifully
Elaborate.
planted.
Well planted, yeah, all the things. I think people probably understood that, but
Just in case.
All right, so let's move on to some life cycles. We were talking about amplexus before. So these are an example of, well, they were dart frog eggs. They're starting to look, you can kind of see the tadpoles forming. So you can still see the round parts. That's the yolk that they're absorbing. I'm not sure if you can kind of see, there's little tiny gills in there.
Let me see if I can zoom in.
Those are about 5 days old.
wow.
Yep. So
Ooh,
these
I
are
am not
the
studying
blue
enough for
dart
this.
frogs that you saw. That's their eggs, and so they're eggs for about a month or so, and then they'll turn into tadpoles. They're tadpoles for about 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
The length of eggs to tadpoles and tadpoles to morphs is very different. We have some species that the eggs, they're only eggs for a day, and then they turn into tadpoles. We have some tadpoles that are tadpoles for like 6 to 8 months. So it really varies a lot between different species.
Wow.
Here's some of the tadpoles we have. These are some,
Oh my
some dart frog
gosh.
tadpoles.
Hi.
So at this point, they like to eat like algae and that kind of detritus that they would find in the wild. Yeah, there's like a glare.
Glare.
Yeah. Where is
Oh,
it? Is that your head?
I don't know.
Yep. Here, get that sweatshirt.
Oh my gosh, you can see his little eyes.
How cool is that?
Yep, and then they'll develop back legs first, and then they'll start to develop their front legs, and then
my
then
gosh.
they'll go through metamorphosis where they're absorbing their tail and developing their mouth parts, where it changes more from herbivorous to more carnivorous mouths. So they're essentially eating their tail while their mouths change.
So cool. I probably learned all of this when I got my bachelor's degree, but
Yeah,
I
of
forgot
course.
it all. Sorry for telling.
So next we've got some baby frogs. They are, at this point, they're a few months old. Are you
Over
sitting
there.
on him? Yeah. So these are little walking toads.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Then,
I
yeah.
was not ready for that.
They're,
I mean, Sherry, you know how much I adore tiny things. And
Oh, they're perfect.
every time we have these, I am like glued.
yeah, and these are a few months old at this point. They were super tiny when they came out, like smaller than like pea gravel. It's really hard to keep them. You got to have a lot of specialized, really tiny insects. And then basically you don't touch that tank for a long time because you never know what's a piece of gravel and what's a baby frog.
Yeah, wow.
You can kind of see they're a little bit black, but then there's some adults in here too. So that you see they have that bright yellow coloration. The babies will start to develop that yellow coloration a little bit more.
Can you guys see these? Like, I'm scared that I'm like zooming in and
yeah,
ruining
right.
everything.
When they're on that,
Yeah.
like that black liner, so it may be hard to
Yeah, that's
spot
the
'em.
silicone. Come here, guys. And again, I already wetted my hands.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you can see my unmanicured hands. All right.
Wow.
I'm just gonna make sure he doesn't jump off.
Those were the most perfect little jumps.
So these are actually called bumblebee walking toads because really they don't hop, they walk.
They walk, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, of course he's hopping. So he's actually drying out a little bit because that side of my hand's not as
Goodbye,
wet.
back to the wetness.
But we can look at some of the adults. And normally, when they get threatened, they
You're
do
just
this
not
thing
threatening,
called
Sherry.
the
That's
Hunkin
good.
Reflex.
Oh, he kind of did
He
it.
kind of did it. I don't want to really make him mad, but you see underneath they have their bright red.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of orange right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that is their that was my golden frogs calling. Normally they roll up, and it's called the Unkin Reflex, so they're flashing their
The red bits?
warning colors right there. But they
Say,
don't
like,
want to
leave me
do
alone.
it, yes, because they're just apparently too comfortable.
That's good. They
just
love
love
you.
you. Yeah.
That's sweet. No, I think one of the coolest exhibits in our Unseen New World is the one where you see the progression from the egg to tadpole to juvenile to adult frogs. Like, I've never seen an exhibit like that at any other zoo. So when we open back up, Unseen New World will not be open for the foreseeable future as we navigate this pandemic. But as soon as we're open, I highly recommend checking out all of the incredible exhibits down there so you can see all these really cool amphibians and lizards and snakes that our herpetology team has. But in particular, check out the life cycles of these frogs. I think that's so cool.
It's pretty awesome.
Okay, so these guys are calling, yes?
Yep,
They're
these are calling, and so we're going to transition a little bit. We're still going to talk about amphibians, but we're going to talk about some of the conservation we do at the Nashville Zoo. So these are Panamanian golden frogs. They are from Panama. They are the Panamanians' equivalent to our bald eagle. This is their national
Really?
symbol of
Oh, wow.
Panama. Yes, they're very, very proud of these amphibians. They have whole parades with like
That's awesome.
it's amazing. So they really love these amphibians. The problem is they're possibly extinct in the wild. There
Wow.
was this fungus, it's called chytrid fungus, that came through Central and South America and wiped out a lot of amphibians. So what we did was, not we, but scientists all over the world, they went in and they caught as many different species and animals that they could, and they brought them into captivity so we can hold them so they don't just completely vanish. So there's a lot of different zoos that have these species. We basically just have what's called a holding colony. So we hold them and breed them so that they don't vanish. So this is a male. The males call, the females don't. They're not going to call right now.
You're not a female frog?
I'm not a female, but sometimes they do unflex my fingers. So,
Lucky you.
well, it's usually because they like to wrestle each other a lot, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
stop them.
That's so cool.
Yep. So, Panamanian golden frogs. We're not doing any re-releases with these ones. We're mostly just maintaining them so that once things change, hopefully for the better, they can be released potentially if we still have them. I mean, we'll still have them.
It's definitely like not releasing animals into the wild isn't like a very easy process, and certainly like after doing years and years of propagation in human care, we don't want to take a big population and be like, good luck y'all, like hope the wild suits ya. That's like not the ideal situation, and obviously we need protected space to release animals into, and that requires government input and like a lot of different working bodies working together to fix the problem.
Which brings us to our next species. This is the Puerto Rican crested toad. It is
So
the only
cute.
native species of frog to Puerto Rico, or toad
Wow.
species. They're named because they have a kind of a turned up nose. They have gorgeous eyes. This is a male, so he's in our exhibit colony, but we also have a breeding colony off exhibit. So this is part of they were a species survival plan, but they have since graduated out of that program. So this was the first
Good job, guys.
conservation program for frog species. It was developed in 1984. And since then, they've been working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Puerto Rican government, and zoos across the country to breed and release these frogs. So since 2019, or we haven't done any this year, but over 500,000 tadpoles have been re-released in Puerto Rico.
And that's since 2009.
That's since 1992.
Oh, okay.
The Nashville Zoo, we got involved in this program in 2008, and we have sent over 15,000 tadpoles.
That's incredible.
Yep, it is. And so these guys were, they had a few different threats in the wild. There was invasive species, marine toads or cane toads were coming in and eating them and their tadpoles and just outcompeting them. They had habitat loss, so the governments, the partners have since created new breeding grounds for them and set aside protected land so that they can breed. So these guys, since we've been sending back tadpoles, we send back tadpoles because they're really easy to do. You put them in a giant bag. It's like sending fish. He's just sent a big bag of fish. Honestly, don't worry, there's videos of us doing our packing up in our releases, so you can look at how we ship our tadpoles. But all zoos will send tadpoles from that breeding time all at the same time, so the tadpoles are all the same age, they all have the same chances of survival, so we're letting the best genetics survive, and they are actually starting to come back and reproduce in these areas that were made for them.
That's
So,
amazing, Sherry.
Incredible.
this
Like
is
a real
actually
success story.
like a success story. So these were downgraded from a species survival plan, and now they're being looked after by the Puerto Rican Crested Toad Conservatory, I think.
Cool.
Don't quote me on that. It's a new recent change since 2020, but it's actually some of these programs do work, and we're actually bringing some of these species back to be able to breed themselves. We just need to fix some of their habitats and make it acceptable for them, and then they can come back and do what they need to do.
Sherry, do these guys have something in America that looks similar or native to Tennessee? I saw Dawn said that she thought she might have caught one of these. I'm assuming she's here, but
Yeah, in Tennessee we have a few species of toads. We have the American toads, and we have Fowler's toads, and maybe some spadefoot toads. So we do have toads. A lot of toads all kind of look alike. They're just kind of brown and brown. They use it for camouflage. So our toad species are all kind of look the same.
This is a
yeah.
cute toad, though.
He is
Like,
a cute
I'll say
toad.
that.
People say, oh, he's ugly, but if you look at their eyes, this one doesn't, its eyes are only all right, but there's some that have just gorgeous eyes.
Only all right.
I think they're gorgeous. Don't
Well,
let
I
her
know, but
talk
if-
about you
if
like
you've
that.
seen
If
thousands
you've
of
seen
toads,
some
you know.
other ones,
Okay,
we've
true.
got some really pretty eyes in the back.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, is this Amplexus happening?
Yes.
Something similar?
Don't worry.
She
That was
caught
the
it.
best catch I've ever
He's
seen.
fine.
Sherry is a pro.
He's going back now. All
He
right.
says, I'm ready to exercise.
Yep, he's done. And sometimes
Thank you
that's
for
why
exercising.
amphibians aren't good pets, is because they really don't like being handled.
Yeah.
So this is what Amplexus looks like. It's actually
Wow.
two males, and they'll do
Oh,
this
well.
because they want that to be a female, or it's a territorial thing. They'll actually also, so these guys live, the males live in near fast-moving rivers, and so it's really loud if you've ever been by a waterfall. So they can't always hear each other calling, so sometimes what they'll do is they'll like wave to each other. It's really cool if you see them doing it. There was one, he was almost doing it, but it's also a way for them to communicate when they can't hear each other. But these males do it all the time. It's a territorial thing, and it's a breeding thing. It's a male thing.
Competition leads to the best possible offspring.
That is a true
genetically.
story.
So fighting is a great way to make sure that your
Yeah.
lineage will carry on.
Jake, before we move on to our next species, can you let Luke and the rest of our friends know why our windows look like this?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Luke. So the windows look like this because right now is kind of the tail end of spring migration for birds. And we've identified, well, our avian team has identified these windows as like a potential strike zone for wild birds. So they put up some soap along the windows to make it clear that this is not like a way to go, and to help birds know, like, okay, there's glass there, I shouldn't fly that way.
All right. So
Sorry
next-
for the brief bird commercial.
No, I mean, it's.
Back
soap.
to the amphibians.
If you have that happening at your house, you can soap it, or you can also
Yeah.
get window clings to prevent bird strikes.
Important.
This is, so we were talking about
Wow.
the Puerto Rican crested toads. This is called a marine toad and or a cane toad.
Wow.
These are native to South America. However, they are been introduced in Australia and Puerto Rico and Florida. They are tanks. They'll eat cat food. They will outcompete a lot of native species. They have these giant areas right here. It's called a parotoid gland or a parotoid gland, depending on which pronunciation you want to use. And they'll actually secrete it's a toxin. It's called bufotoxin. It's actually really toxic. So a lot of non-native species, like if this is introduced to Australia and there's animals that want to try eating this, they'll actually get so sick they'll die, and they can't learn to not eat these. They just die. Most native species, like you bite it and you'll be like, oh, that tastes bad, I don't want to eat that again. They don't have that chance. So these are actually, they're bad for native or amphibians, they're bad for a lot of species. But most toads will have these glands. There's different types of toxins, but these guys are real bad. And also, like some of the toads that we have in Tennessee, they actually will have something similar to this. So like if your dog ever is like bit a toad, they'll get kind of sick. It's from the toxins.
That's crazy. And this is a small cane toad, right? Because this is a male, so like they get very
they
giant.
can get big. They also have pretty eyes, though. If you want to look at their eyes,
Stunning.
So
I'm a
pretty.
sucker for eyes, obviously.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So she right now, I don't know if you can see her. Well, she's not liking being held because amphibians don't really like being held. Sometimes, supposedly, you flip them upside down and pet them on their bellies. They're supposed to like calm down. But you can see how she's kind of like doing that. That's what would be called a release call. That's saying, I don't want to, like, let go of me. I don't want to be held anymore. They'll do that to, males will do that to other males and say, hey, I'm a female, or I'm not a female, like, let me go. You're wasting your time. But also just to say, hey, just leave me alone.
So Sherry, just for our friends at home, I know you guys can see how big this toad is, but like, how much does it weigh? Like, about?
She's around 300-400 grams.
300 or 400 grams.
That's like about as much as a medium cup of coffee weighs.
Or a juvenile hellbender.
Right. Let's put it in words that people will definitely know. A
Juvenile
hellbender.
hellbenders. Yeah, this is about a 4-year-old hellbender.
And like Sherry mentioned a little bit ago, like amphibians don't make the best pets for most people because a lot of people want their pet to be like cuddly and like sit with them and want to be interacted with all the time. But when we were talking about hellbenders last week, Sherry made like the best kind of analogy is like amphibians are good pets if you want something to look at.
Yes.
Like if you just like want to set it up in a really nice habitat and then just like look at it every once in a while. These are not pets that you can have and like handle all the time.
No.
So if you're a sucker for eyes, like Sherry, this might be a good pet for you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
They're like landfish.
Yeah.
Fish don't want to be held.
Yeah,
Don't
fish,
want to
yeah. Good point. Do we have any other questions so far, Kelsey, about amphibians?
let's see. I'm just gonna zoom back in on our friends here while I scroll back up for you guys. John says, what is 4 years old? Was that 4?
Oh no, I'm saying a 4-year-old hellbender would be that size.
Oh, got it. A 4-year-old hellbender would be that size.
Yeah. These cane toads were actually, we got them from Miami. Someone caught them for us and sent them to us because they're invasive there, so.
And would those be found here? The
The
giant.
cane toads, no, they shouldn't be at this point. However, they're probably moving north. Fun story about them is they were actually introduced to Australia. They were hoping that these toads would eat the sugarcane beetles and grubs, and they didn't. They ate everything else. So they introduced them to solve a problem, and it completely backfired, and they're overrunning Australia. That's why they're also called the cane toads, because they're supposed to eat the cane
I see the
beetles
connection there.
and bugs, but they didn't.
Like, hot tip, introducing another species does not typically get rid of your invasive species problem.
You just get more invasive.
Yeah, we
species.
just have more invasive species. So we've learned that over time, so it's easy for me to say that because we've watched and seen
Yeah.
it happen. But yeah,
Cloud frogs, African cloud frogs are actually, there's a population or two in California living and breeding because someone released them, and so they're invasive in parts of California.
And where did you say these guys are
These are
native?
from Africa.
Native? Okay.
Yeah, Africa. They don't have nearly as many detrimental effects as the cane toad because they're more concentrated in their few little ponds that they're in. However, if you do have a pet of any type, please don't release it when you're done with it. You can always find someone to take it, but they can have all sorts of consequences to the native animals living there. They can introduce diseases and parasites, but they can also just not be suitable for release. Either they don't know how to hunt themselves, they don't know where to find proper shelter, or the temperatures and just environment is not right for them. So please don't release your pets into the wild.
good message.
Yes. Question for you, Sherry. Which of these species makes noise, or which is your favorite call We'll go there.
My favorite call is the walking toads.
Okay.
They're more seasonal breeders, so it's only usually only in the winter when they're calling. Probably if I heard it year round, I would get a little sick of it. The loops are really pretty also. They're really loud and just, you can hear them across the building.
Just the yellow and black.
Yes, the yellow and black ones. Sorry. See, that's me talking in.
You said it's the yellow and black
Yes,
hollies?
Yellow and black ones. The
They
blue,
sound like birds.
Those other three, the blue, green, and orange ones,
Mhm.
are a lot softer, so you don't hear them. But it's nice though if you did have them in your house. It's a
Like a soothing soundtrack?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like a rainforest soundtrack, where some of them are like really high and piercing. One of the other tree frogs we don't have up here, it kind of sounds like a dying cat. So
It's very loud.
it is very loud. It's a little startling when you do come in and hear some of these noises. But most amphibians, not necessarily the aquatic ones. However, we do have some pippos, which are Suriname toads, downstairs. They will actually call, and you can hear them underwater. It sounds like gravel clicking together.
That's so cool.
That's
I do have
bizarre.
a video of that, I think. They're also the ones that do a fun little somersault acrobatic, and then the male fertilizes the eggs as they come out of the female, and then they get embedded in the female's back. And then the eggs get covered with skin. In a few months, baby frogs come out. We had the eggs get embedded in the back, but no baby frogs yet. So maybe next time.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, there would be adorable little balloons with arms and legs. Like,
Oh my god.
it would be, you think these are cute? Those would just be, oh, yeah.
Don't
So,
tease me like that.
I was really excited and then nothing happened, so,
Dawn wants to know, can frogs eat lizards?
yes. That cane toad, it could definitely eat quite a few
Oh,
lizards.
it's just the box.
Yeah, keep
Sorry.
going.
Yes, depending on the size, because there's small lizards, there's baby lizards. I think I've seen pictures of these eating snakes.
That's nuts.
Yeah, basically, they'll eat whatever's bigger or smaller than them.
Mhm.
So it's possible, yes, these can eat lizards, these can eat snakes, these could probably eat small rodents. We do have some frogs down there that are Pac-Man frogs. They're basically
A walking stomach.
yeah, pretty much. Those will eat
Anything
birds
that can
and
fit in
mammals
their
and anything that will fit in their mouth.
So, question for the room from Luke. And Luke, I'm going to twist your question just a little, but what is your most favorite and least favorite amphibian? Jake?
Most favorite?
Mm-hmm.
I really love cane toads. It's horrible because they're so invasive, but it's not their fault that they're invasive. It's people's fault that they're invasive.
True.
Cane toads are so cute. Least favorite, we didn't really talk about Sicilians.
Yeah.
I don't like those. Sorry.
Sicilians are the other families of amphibians. They're mostly found in the tropics. They look like eels or worms. There's both aquatic and
Yeah.
fossorial ones. They live in the dirt.
They don't do anything for me. Sorry.
Okay.
They're very
we
important.
currently don't have any, but we're planning on getting some aquatic ones. My favorite animals or amphibians, obviously the hellbenders, because they're super awesome. Check out that other YouTube video or Facebook Live or whatever it is. My least favorite is the Epipetabates anthonii. They're tricolor dart frogs, and they have really loud, high-pitched call, and they just never stop. And, it's like every time I walk in the room, I yell at them and tell them to stop because they're just always squawking.
And they say, we don't care.
Yeah,
We'll
pretty
keep
much.
going.
They're just like,
That's funny.
"Ah." Yeah, it's just real loud.
Holly?
Oh, yes. So I'm a big salamander fan. I'd have to say the tiger salamanders are my favorite amphibians. I don't have a least favorite yet.
That's good.
I worked hard to get here. They haven't annoyed me yet. It's been 4 years of an education getting here, so I love them all right now. I guess we'll see over time.
All right, fair answer. I'll circle back to you in about 5 years.
That's funny.
Let's see. Okay, so question from Emily. What would happen if the brightly colored frogs, let me zoom in on this for you, Emily. What would happen if they mated with the same species but of a different color? Would the colors mix, or what would happen there?
Well, those are different species, but we do have some, there are a lot of different color morphs because of different locations where they're found in the wild. They don't tend to travel that much, so over different hills and different valleys, there are some different color morphs. You can breed those together and you'll get, it depends on the species and the color morph, which color morph will be more dominant or if it's a mix. However,
people really don't like doing that because you're kind of mixing two separate, they're not species, but they're special entities together. And
Yeah,
kind
so
of
like
muddling
each
it up.
color here is a different.
These are all different
entity,
species.
kind of,
These are all,
okay.
yeah, just different species, but there are different, like this blue one here, there's some color morphs of that are like have yellow heads and they'll have
Oh.
green on them. And
Yeah,
then there's
downstairs.
different blue. So there are a lot of different color morphs. And even like the green ones, this green one is, it's a little bit more metallic-y. You can get some that have a dark, deeper green. You can get some that have a lot more black and less green. Yellow ones too. Yep, that's my golden frogs calling. Like there's just different patterns. Like that's a pretty wide pattern. You can get some that don't have bands on them. They're more lines. The orange ones can be redder. They can be, I've seen some that are white and some that are black. So there's a lot of different color morphs. It's mostly from location.
Gotcha. Let's see. One more question about the dart frogs. Can you repeat again what makes them poisonous in the wild?
It's their diet. So it's the bugs that they're eating. And whatever's in the bugs, whether it's the plants that they're eating or it's the composition of the bugs themselves, they can metabolize that into the poison. And so the poison is secreted when they feel threatened. They'll actually secrete the poison through their skin. And so a predator, like most likely what's going to happen is something's trying to eat them, and so it gets in their mouth and that makes them sick. For us, it would have to like get into our skin like through a cut, or if we wiped our mouth or our eyes, which we're not doing because we're not touching our faces right now. So that's how you would get poison. One super different side avenue, so that is poison. It has to be somehow ingested or like into an orifice of somehow. A venom from snakes, spiders, scorpions is actually something that's a toxin that's injected into you.
Gotcha. I love how these guys are just like sitting here, like waiting for a meeting to start, or like it's just very official looking.
Yeah,
for some
we
fruit flies
every
to
now and
come
then
down.
we'll pull them out and put them in these tanks. We do routine health checks and we'll do fecal samples. So we'll take their little poops in there and we'll send it up to the vets and they'll check for parasites. So it's not that this is uncommon for them. Sometimes also we'll pull them all out and check to make sure everyone's there, everyone looks healthy. And when we have smaller frogs, we'll actually pull them all out. And then if there's some that are like really big and fat and some that are smaller, we'll separate those out by size so that certain animals aren't getting outcompeted.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sherry, question about weather constraints. Holly mentioned that there were weather constraints or temperature constraints for the salamanders. Is that true for frogs?
Oh, absolutely. Any species has temperature constraints, like polar bears or red pandas or people. We don't like it if it's too hot or too cold. All of the temperature constraints are really per that species and where they're found in the wild. The cane toads have a much wider temperature range. That's what makes them so great at being invasive species. They can handle a broader range, where some of the Panamanian golden frogs and some of the higher montane frog species, they can't, and that's one of the reasons they're having some problems. Besides the fungus that's going around, is just different changes in their weather patterns will change the humidity a few different points and will actually really change their small areas. And because they're small, they really can't travel. If like, hey, this hilltop, it was great, I loved living here, now it's too dry. They really can't move that far to better habitat.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that.
Got to think about.
I know.
Well, that's why I'm here, instead of like,
I know.
things to think about. And there's also, because it's so hilly, there's just so many different little niches, little different ecoclimates in like down in hills and valleys that's why there's so many different species in the tropics. And the same thing, we have a smaller version of that in our Appalachian Mountains, which is a global biodiversity hotspot for salamanders.
Right in our backyard.
Right in our backyard. We
Cool.
actually, Tennessee has at least 70 species of salamanders. We have, I wrote it down and I forgot. But here at the zoo, we have 4 species of salamanders and 25 species of frogs.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's so many.
it is.
That wasn't my
They're
stomach.
super
That's a frog.
Yeah, it's the golden frog.
I looked at you with judgment and you caught it.
It's not me, girl.
I feel like I need to apologize to this African clawed frog because I accidentally hit the table and startled him. So I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't see any other questions, I don't think. So is there anything else that you guys want to share about amphibians for Amphibian Week?
Sherry talked about the chytrid fungus that affects frogs. There's also a chytrid fungus that affects salamanders. It's called Batrachopytrium salamandrivorans, or B-sal for short. Way easier to say.
B-sal.
And so, where in frogs, I know it hardens their skin, it keratinizes their skin, and they breathe through their skin. So imagine if your skin was just all fingernails and you tried to breathe through that, you couldn't do that. And so they end up not being able to breathe.
How
and they
terrifying.
die. It's awful. And so the frogs are affected by it, salamanders are affected by it, so it's a big problem right now.
Yes. Good to know.
Awesome.
So wash your hands if you're going out looking for like wildlife. I know a lot of people like to like turn over stumps and logs and rocks to look for bugs and salamanders and stuff. Like, A, wash your hands. B, you should have wet hands if you're handling any amphibians. C, remember that like when you're lifting up a log, you're disturbing their home. And there's generally not a great way to like set their home back up, because if you don't put
Generally not.
if you don't put it perfectly back where it was, you could crush something. So be really smart about the way that you're engaging in nature play and checking things out, because our small actions every day can impact these species. Because like Sherry was saying, like some of them have a habitat or a home base that's smaller than the size of the room we're in right now. So our little walking through this undisturbed wilderness can really affect amphibians, and we need them around for a long time. Any last things about our wonderful creatures?
They're really cool.
They are really cool. Hopefully y'all got that a little bit from this video. Our herpetology team does a lot of the like heavy lifting when it comes to direct conservation work here at the zoo, and we're really thankful for the support of our community and our members and our guests who come and visit the zoo. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the zoo is opening back up on June 15th for members and June 18th for everybody else. If you go to nationalzoo.org/reopen, you can find out all the information. There are timed tickets that you need to sign up for, all kinds of different things. And that will also include a list of like the things that aren't going to be open when you come back, so you're not surprised by that. So check that out, and we really can't wait to see y'all back here soon. Thank you so much for all of your support. We appreciate it.
And I'm going to leave you guys with a last view of the friend I startled, Mr. African Clawed Frog.
So cute.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you later this week.